Happy Tuesday, everyone. I am just giving you a 5-minute warning to let you know that we will be starting Impact Tuesdays at exactly 11 o'clock. So go ahead and get settled, and I will be back in 5 minutes to get started. So I will see you shortly. Happy Tuesday, everyone. I see people are still filling in, but we are going to go ahead and get started because it is 11 o'clock. So I hope that everyone is doing as well as can be. Welcome to Impact Tuesdays. I am Jennifer Krishka, CEO of the Jewish Women's Foundation of the Greater Palm Beaches, a feminist social change organization that is dedicated to advancing the status of women and girls in Florida, the United States, and in Israel. So we are joined today by April Brownlee and Nicole Weeks from PACE Center for Girls in Palm Beach. So thanks so much, April and Nicole, for being with us today. So April is the executive director and Nicole is a REACH therapist. And the REACH program is the program that JWF is specifically funding. But before we get to that, I want to welcome them and just kind of learn a little bit more about April and Nicole, what your backgrounds are, and then maybe you can tell us about PACE and what the mission is and what you're doing there.
Great. Good morning. My name is April Brownlee. I'm the executive director with PACE Center for Girls Palm Beach. My background, I'm a licensed mental health counselor, and my background is in acute psychiatric care, and that was my training. And soon after, I realized that I did not want to be a private practice therapist, but had a real interest in community-based work, and began my work as a community behavioral health therapist. Realizing that community is what was important in understanding and truly understanding what people's journeys and life experiences have been, not just within their family unit, but contextually and within the systemic nature of where they reside and how they've been raised and their experiences that they had, and how important that is in understanding the people that I was working with, the individuals I was working with. So I spent some time doing that and some clinical supervision. And in my work in Broward County, I actually discovered PACE Center for Girls. And that is when I was first introduced to the program and the amazing work that they were doing with At Promise girls in the community of Broward County. And began working with PACE about 4.5 years ago as a director in Broward. And about 3 years ago, joined the Palm Beach team to help launch the REACH program that Jennifer mentioned, and took on the role as Associate Executive Director there, and more recently, Executive Director. So thank you again for inviting us to join you today and to share a little bit about what PACE does.
Yeah, thank you so much for being here. So Nicole, well, I guess maybe we should start with going into like what PACE is and what it does, and then Nicole, tell us about what you do and your background.
Sure. So PACE provides girls and young women an opportunity for a better future through education, counseling, training, and advocacy. PACE began in 1985 in Jacksonville, Florida, and was really launched and designed in response to a community need. And that need was to support girls that were being incarcerated and institutionalized for their behavioral health and mental health needs. At the time, there were no effective alternatives for meeting the unique developmental needs of girls, as girls were being placed in programs that were traditionally designed for boys. The problem there was that our girls in those programs had a history of trauma and victimization, and their underlying needs weren't being met. In fact, they were likely being further traumatized and victimized because the reasons that brought them to those programs and those places in their life were being missed, and they weren't being addressed. And so our founder, Vicki Burke, launched PACE Center for Girls in 1985 with about 10 girls in a church room, and began providing them individualized education and counseling and case management support. And the girls thrived and flourished, and so birthed PACE Center for Girls. We now have 21 centers in the state of Florida, and our 22nd program in Macon, Georgia. We serve over 40,000 girls last year. Since inception, 40,000 girls and about over 3,000 girls annually. So our anchor program, our main program that most people are familiar with, is what we call our day program. And that's where our girls, middle and high school ages, can come and receive year-round education and counseling and case management and therapy services at no cost to them or their family. And then I'll let Nicole talk about the REACH program, but really the girls that we serve, many would call at risk, but we call them at promise. And these are girls with a history of trauma, abuse, neglect, victimization. They are falling behind academically, have some family conflict and instability. They may be engaging in at-risk or promiscuous behaviors that we need to support them with. So really any girl that has some need for additional support are the girls that we're here to serve.
Okay, thank you. So Nicole, you are a REACH therapist, so maybe you can tell us a little bit more about that program, also your background, and I'm sure everybody would like to know sort of how the girls come to PACE, how they learn about you.
Sure. So Nicole Weeks, I'm a REACH therapist with PACE Center for Girls. I came to PACE very opposite from April in terms of experience. I had just graduated for my master's, wasn't really sure what I was doing. I had completed my internship at a pretty traditional therapy center, also community-based in Boca. And we're not community-based, I'm sorry. It was more so like the traditional therapy that you would, receive. And I got great training there. And PACE came to me, I was like kind of researching what I wanted to do and where I wanted to go. Of course, again, new out of college, you're kind of not sure. I actually was heading more towards like a private practice and doing some more clinical work. And then came PACE Center for Girls. I interviewed with April actually at the Broward Center. And funny story we always talk about is that I interviewed for a position at Broward, and we were just kind of looking for another therapist for Palm Beach. And she, at the end of our interview, I remember her saying, "Would you be interested in a position in Palm Beach?" I'm like, "Wait, what?" And so I accepted. It was a brand new program, but I thought it would be really cool to be part of something like that. And so that's how I came to PACE Palm Beach and being the second hire for the REACH program. And it's been great ever since. Lots of, I've learned so much from, working in a community-based environment. REACH definitely has, its challenges, because especially when you're out of school and you're more used to that traditional one-on-one therapy, not really doing a ton of case management where we're helping the girls and families, to really being thrown into the community and kind of like, seeing all the needs that are out there. It was really humbling. And so that's how I came to be, REACH therapist and loving it. So the REACH program, like April mentioned, was really started because of in response to community need. And so what they were seeing is that our girls were coming to our, our PACE day program, and they were seeing that girls needed extra support. They needed more, therapeutic services that PACE could provide at the time. And so what was happening is that we were referring girls out to different, providers. And we thought to ourselves, like, wait a minute, we can do this. We have, the skilled people on board. Like, we can definitely start a program where there's actual therapeutic work being done with the girls. And so that's how kind of REACH came about. And as of right now, PACE Palm Beach, we serve about 80 girls a year. And it's really dependent on, because we're a smaller program, we typically have 2 therapists on staff. Right now we have 3 with 1 on leave. So each therapist serves around 40 a year. And our work is, as April mentioned, very community based. We go in homes, we go to schools, we go anywhere that the family needs us to be and to see a girl. I've seen a girl at a mother's doctor's appointment outside. I've seen girls in our PACE vans. Just wherever there is a need, that's where we're at. And a lot of our work has to do with not only therapy, like that traditional therapy, but We focus a lot on building relationships with girls. We see that that is really the biggest difference. A lot of people ask me, like, what's different between what you do and like a traditional, clinical therapist? And I mean, I can give you a laundry list of how different it is. But the main thing is that building that relationship, and that's why we see really good results. For instance, we know when our girls' birthdays are. We send cards. We have, our cell phones available to them. We have that open communication. We know a lot about their hobbies and things they like to do. We check in with, so we're really building that rapport and that relationship with them. And that's how we kind of get these risk factors that they have to minimize, and increase those protective factors. And so like, that's our goal in therapy, not only working on their therapeutic goals, but also increasing those protective factors so that we don't see these girls, going into the juvenile justice system or, increasing any of the other risk factors that they might have. Our girls we have several aspects to PACE Reach. We, the ways we engage our girls, we have service learning projects that we do with them. And so basically what that is that we connect with someone in the community. So most recently we have a pretty good partnership with Peggy Adams, the animal shelter. And so we'll connect the girls with them. And so recently we went out, prior to obviously COVID, we went out to the facility and we made toys for, the animals. The girls got to learn a lot about how they bring in all these animals who don't have homes. And we're able to even participate and sign up for any volunteer work that they wanted to do. And then in turn, we learned about their program and what they do for, the animals in the community, et cetera. And so we do a lot of those projects because we believe the more we engage the girls in the community, the higher the protective factors are. And so that is just one example of our service learning projects. And then we have our Enrichment Nights, which are also really important to what we do. And that's basically just bringing our girls and families together. We want to know about your family. We want to see you interact. We want to help be that connection. We want to be, those people that help bring you guys together. And so we typically do them around the holidays. Sometimes we do them when there's like a suicide awareness month, anything that we find the girls might be interested in. And a lot of times we'll include them in the planning. We'll say, what do you guys want to do? Like, what do you think would be interesting to you? And so we like to do those every year. We do two each, 2 service learning, 2 enrichments. Sometimes it's more, just depending on, what the girls like to do or want to do. But those are just, some other things that we do. And then of course our groups, which, we're very grateful to JWF for, helping us in continuing to run our groups. We have our Girls Circle curriculum, which is evidence-based, and that is a curriculum that we use at the center. So we'll use it with our center girls in the day program, and then we also use them inside of our local public schools. And I think has been really cool to be able to go into these schools that don't have any of this curriculum, being able to work on those different relationships, whether it be, and really increasing like the healthy relationships, really pushing those like positive self-esteem. A lot of our Girls Circle curriculum really centers around that. And I will say that we've had pretty positive experiences in public schools, and a lot of people want us to come back. So that has been pretty successful for us, and we enjoy doing it. And then there's our mother-daughter curriculum, which is also extremely successful. We have, a few pairs of mother-daughter groups, and the focus of that group is increasing communication, being able to strengthen relationships, helping parents, parenting a teenage girl, if we're being honest, right, might be really difficult. So we really help, those families connect. And we've had actually a lot of success with the mother-daughter groups. And a lot of times we have repeat participants who want to come back just to refresh, on a lot of the skills that they learn. So it's kind of us in a nutshell.
So I want to back up a little bit. So for many of our attendees who may not know anything at all about PACE, Can you walk me through kind of the process? Like, let's say I'm a family or I'm a girl and I come to you. So one, how do the girls arrive at PACE? How do they get connected to you? How do they learn about you? And then kind of walk me through like what the process is like to, I guess, to become enrolled in a PACE program.
Absolutely. So I always like to say there's no wrong door to accessing our services. So our girls come to us from a variety of different sources. They could be referred by their school social worker, a case manager in the community, another therapist. We have actually some of our alum bring their children to us. So really there is no wrong way to receive our services or to access our services. So a simple phone call, we have people that walk in the building and say, hey, I saw your sign on the door. Who are you? What do you do? And we welcome you with open arms. So typical process is we would facilitate an assessment, and again, following our gender responsive trauma informed model, it's a holistic assessment, and it's really looking at the 6 developmental domains of a girl, everything from her physical health, her emotional, her social well-being, her relationships, her sexual health, her spirituality. We look at all of that and we identify areas of risk we could potentially intervene and support. We do a thorough orientation for the girl, and really all services are voluntary. So even if a girl is being told by a judge or a probation officer they have to attend, our girls have to sign paperwork, sign on the dotted line, and agree to be in services. And that's part of empowering our girls to make their decision and want to be there. We don't just want their buy-in, we want their joining in. We want them to feel a part of the PACE family. So it's a rather thorough process to come on board. And once the girl says we want to be here, we're on board. We also present our options. So a girl might not want to come to the school at PACE every day. So accessing the REACH program is a great alternative to that as well, or to start with REACH to learn about our services. So a girl could potentially stay in her homebound school and still receive REACH services and still have that PACE connection. So sometimes our girls start with REACH and then come to our day program. Sometimes girls start with our day program and get the added component of REACH, or sometimes they come and they receive both services right away because of the level of need that they have. We never want to, provide too many services, so we really assess, risk, need, and respond to that. Typically our girls in our day program can be with us for 2 years. That's like the ideal time frame for them to recover some credits, to build relationships, and to really work on redefining and redeveloping their self-esteem and their self-worth and their self-identity, which often when they come to us has been broken. And then in our REACH program, they're typically with us for about 4 to 6 months for that additional therapy.
Okay. I mean, so what would you say the goal is for PACE? Like, why would a girl come to PACE as opposed to, I don't know, like going somewhere else or staying in her assigned school, but maybe getting therapy, from an external therapist?
So again, the fact that PACE was, created in response to a need, we know that traditional therapies, traditional approaches, traditional programs are not necessarily designed to be gender responsive. They're gender inclusive of everybody, and PACE is not gender specific. We don't just serve girls. We are responsive to the unique needs of girls. Our entire program, our research-based and nationally recognized model is designed to meet the unique developmental needs of girls. So as Nicole described, for example, traditionally therapy, you'll receive what they call a biopsychosocial assessment. You'll receive a diagnosis. If they're billing for that, that's sent to the billing, the billing department of your insurance for coding. And you're often treated with that medical model approach of treating your symptomatology versus treating the whole you. We don't diagnose our girls. It's not to say that some of our girls don't have diagnoses or not receiving some sort of medication management that we are very much part of and involved with, but we're looking at the whole girl. So we don't just want to know about your symptoms. We want to know about your family, your relationships, who are the trusted adults that you work with, that and go to. How can we build those things? So as Nicole described, you're not really going to ever find a therapy program that takes you on service learning projects, that does Enrichment Nights, that offers you mother-daughter groups, or actually those have evolved to be parent-daughter groups, because we know there are many different caregivers with our girls live with. So it's the holistic approach that we take, and it is, as Nicole mentioned, centered on building a relationship. It's very individualized, and it's not medical model, and it's not driven by your symptoms or your behaviors. It's driven by who you want to be, and let us help you find your voice. Because that's really what it is. Our girls have had their voices silenced for so long, and we're here to let them shine and find their voice and use their voice and discover and really become the best versions of who they already are, because what they need to succeed is already within them. We're just there to bring it out.
Okay. Can you tell me a little bit more about your relationship with the Department of Justice?
Department of Juvenile Justice? Absolutely. So we have a great relationship. It was significantly about 10 years ago, I don't know, some may recall that Florida was one of the top states in incarcerating our youth and detaining our youth. And we've made great strides as a state. And PACE is a recognized prevention, early intervention program that is funded. Our entire program is close to 50% funded by the Department of Juvenile Justice for our program services. So they are a huge supporter of PACE Center for Girls. And in Florida, as a state, really emphasizes prevention, early intervention efforts with their juvenile justice providers, PACE being one of them. So we have a great longstanding partnership with them, because they understand and recognize the need to support programs like PACE who want to intervene early and change that trajectory so that our girls and our youth, really in general, are not entering our juvenile justice systems and are being diverted from that and changing that path.
I want to remind all of our attendees that if you do have a question, there is a Q&A feature at the bottom of your screen, maybe the top right of your screen, depending on what kind of device you're using. So if you do have questions for Nicole or April, please go ahead and use the Q&A feature and submit your questions, and we will get to them. So how are things going right now? Of course, this is the question, I think we've been asking all of our grantees. With COVID, and you normally being an in-facility provider for a lot of your services, I'm sure you've had to pivot significantly. So what does that look like right now? What are you seeing?
We had to pivot very quickly. So we, in mid-March, made the decision, along with everybody else, to embrace growth and change and take on a remote virtual work, platform. And so we transitioned all of our services, both academic and therapeutic services, to virtual platforms. That in and of itself presented a lot of different challenges. Many of our girls didn't have devices other than cell phones to utilize. Internet, if they had it, was spotty and not, a strong internet provider. So we had to really secure internet services for our girls. We had to, a lot of our girls' families were significantly impacted by being furloughed or unemployed. So making sure that they had resources. And really just transitioning to this virtual world. Our girls also, have been impacted by what we know as the digital divide. They are not, while they may be very savvy with phone and text and social media in terms of utilizing online and computers and virtual platforms for school and academics, that's very challenging. And so that's something we've always wanted to work towards, was enhancing our technological capacity here at the center to work with our girls who very much aren't exposed to that kind of privilege. So trying to teach them all and get them all on Google Classroom, trying to teach our staff and get them on board. So we had to do all of that, and we did it very quickly as an organization statewide with the support of our national office. And we have been able to continue to enroll girls into our program, which is great. So we are still fully staffed. We have our at capacity with all of our services. We've enrolled girls therapeutic services. We did realize that when a lot of the girls in our community, when schools shut down, girls that had school counselors no longer had access to those counselors. So we did offer our services through the interagencies and different community partners that we have to be able to serve those girls as well. So we've received some of those referrals, and it's just been a matter of, it's new solutions to old problems. How do we keep the girls engaged? How do we make sure they're safe? How do we make sure they're fed and that all of their needs are met? And so it's just been, like I said, embracing growth and change and making that adjustment, but the team has done really well. I know, Nicole, there's probably some more specific kind of hiccups and barriers that you can speak to being as involved in direct service.
Yeah, I mean, I think that everything that April said, it was a very quick change. And so we know that with our girls in particular, change is really hard. And so for it to happen so quickly, and then with a pandemic going on, there was a lot of anxiety, a lot of stress, families, as April mentioned, being furloughed or, not really having the means. So there was a lot of, in the very beginning, just all of us, like the therapists, counselors, kind of getting together and seeing how we can meet the needs of these families. Because we were seeing that, there was a deprivation of food, or like there wasn't, things in the home that they needed. And so like us really getting together and kind of getting those resources for them, being able to set them up with these services like the internet. The day program provided computers for the girls through the school board. So we were able to get that up and going, but it definitely was a challenge. And then once we did get it up and going, it was the challenge then posed to kind of getting those girls engaged. Because as we mentioned, women are relational creatures. We like to, talk in person. And so it was very difficult, I think in the beginning, to get our girls kind of used to this platform that we're using now. And I still think that every day it is a challenge, even though we have a great relationship with them. They'll text us all day. They'll even call us. Unfortunately, with therapy, we can't use those platforms because they're not confidential. So we do have to kind of, shift to this. And so it has been a little bit of a challenge, but I will say that, we know that adolescents and children are very resilient. And so they have definitely overcome that. And I think that, every week we do different things. Like, for instance, we have like a weekly check-in with them where they, can get online with us on a Zoom call, and we have prizes and incentives and just things to get them involved, because we want to know like how they're doing and we want to see them. We miss them, so, these are all things that we've kind of tried, but there has been struggles. I think like any other providers that they have right now, this is universal. And we've just kind of tried to overcome that by, just using the relationship we have with the girls and just checking in with them, making sure they're good. And but it definitely has been a little bit of a challenge, but we're overcoming it, and so I think it's definitely an adjustment.
And I do, of course, want to mention that JWF did an emergency campaign in June to raise funds to provide emergency support related to COVID-19. So I do thank all of our donors who contributed to that. So we were able to give all of our local grantees some additional funding. So hopefully that was helpful and
very much appreciated.
Provided some support for, for all of these challenges that you're seeing.
Yeah, I just think our girls, the experiences and the barriers they already face have been significantly further compounded by this pandemic and social unrest that we know is going on. And it's a lot for them. And as Nicole said, it's very difficult. And what we've heard a lot from them is they want to know when are we going to open our doors? When can they come back?
Sure. Yeah. So we had a couple questions come in. So we have a question about trans women. So the question is, are there trans women who have access to PACE?
Yes. So we have, so PACE has our set of 9 guiding and values and 9 guiding principles. And part of our work has really been to set our inclusion criteria of our LGBTQ plus community. And so we have had centers that have had youth attend students who identify as girls. Absolutely. We've actually had girls that have come to the program and then feeling safe in this environment said that they identify as male. and that they wanted to stay with PACE because they felt safe. So even though we are girl-centered and girl-focused, and our first guiding principle is honor the female spirit, our youth have have voiced to us feeling safe here just to be who they are. And I think that speaks volumes about the environment that we create.
Yes, amazing.
So absolutely. And we take different approaches. So obviously every situation is unique and individualized. We want to make sure this is the right fit. And we also want to make sure that the girls that are already here in the milieu understand. If we're bringing on a new girl, and that may be a trans girl, and we want to make sure our girls are educated, understand, what's appropriate, if they need to ask questions. And so we will prepare our girls here too for that, because we want anybody that walks through our doors to feel safe and included and accepted and welcomed and to be part of the PACE family. And so we are very strategic in that, because we also know that our girls here who don't understand or haven't been exposed or may have questions, that we need to address that too, and in a way that's safe and meeting their needs as well. And so yes, PACE has had our various centers throughout the state, girls who have self-identified as girls, and those who at some point in their PACE journey have come out and said, I identify as a male and my preferred pronoun is he, and I want to stay at PACE. So we've actually experienced both of those.
That's really great that PACE is equipped to support whatever the needs are of the girls that are coming in. So that's amazing. Another question that came up is around evictions. So are you seeing with your girls and their families, evictions being an issue for them? I think the question is about COVID specifically, if you're seeing that impact, evictions or other resources at home for girls and their families.
Definitely resources. I haven't had any specific situations the ones I do know with evictions, we were able to work with landlords and hold off on. We've been able to kind of help advocate with that.
Okay.
Our girls, we would be a resource for that too, if we needed to help with payments and things like that.
Okay.
Definitely food, toiletries, feminine products, but food is a big one. Even with the food banks, it's, or the schools that have been open, it's accessibility, it's childcare coverage, it's, just being able to navigate and get out of the home. So we've done, we've dropped off stuff and brought stuff to homes and things like that, and sent things or ordered stuff to be delivered to homes. So that's mostly what we've seen. And I don't know, Nicole, if you have anything else.
Yeah, we definitely have, just because, our community girls, I think more so too, I've seen, so I've helped families file for unemployment, because it could be a language barrier. They don't, they're not really sure how to fill out the application because it's really extensive. So, so in terms of that, yes, we have definitely helped with that. And I would say, just like April said, a lot of our families have experienced just not being able to pay the rent, and yes, been threatened evictions. So in those cases, I know with some families, we direct them to resources, or we're that liaison and helping, connect them to what they need to do. So like, for instance, with the unemployment, I actually, for an hour session, I sat in with the mom and the girl, and we were able to kind of fill that application out for the family and just help with that. So, and we've definitely been seeing an increase in that. Absolutely.
And if the, utilities or things like that, we always look to see what our community resources, our partners are. So if it's a light bill and LIHEAP is an option, we'll have them, help support. But if not, maybe PACE will then come in, help with that, and then sit with the family budget. Let's look at, how we can, utilize other resources, or maybe things, other things that PACE could help with so that you can pay your light bill. So that's case by case. A lot of case management since COVID experiencing COVID-19, a lot of case management and just triaging different concerns. And I also will add too, we've had some girls, because they haven't had that outlet, home can be a huge trigger for some of our girls. Home family relationships can be a huge trigger. And so we've experienced, an increase in just crisis situations where our girls can't effectively cope in their home environment, and having to
Sure.
navigate that and implement safety plans and alternatives, and seeking some of the shelters in our community temporarily for some respite. And so our team are always on standby on their work cell phones, because we have seen an increase in that, because the girls just aren't getting out of their homes.
Right.
And our concern is, we know for girls who, you know, tend to run away, that's a coping mechanism, that's a coping strategy. So we have a lot of safety plans in place with our girls, and we do have some high risk girls that we are constantly checking in with, because that, you know, these are high risk situations, and girls potentially could be engaging in high risk behaviors as a means to cope with situations that, you know, they're just kind of stuck in right now.
Sure. I mean, I think it's great that you're able to provide such holistic support. I don't think that that's something that everyone knows about PACE. But I think that's really amazing. So I'd like to hear a little bit more about your community partnerships. So like, what other organizations or even, you know, corporate support, like, tell us more about your relationships and like how that helps support the PACE girls.
So we have, and I'll let Nicole talk a little bit more specifically, but we have great partnerships with our board of directors, and their partners. So we have great relationships with the Florida Association of Women Lawyers, FAL, who does our breakfast and books club with the girls, which we're currently trying to work on making that virtual right now. We have a great relationship with the Norton Museum of Art, who has just very recently launched virtual groups with the girls in place of our live weekly groups that we used to do at the center. We have a great relationship with the Teen Outreach Program from the Children's Home Society, that we're looking at. Actually, we have relaunched that group with the girls, and that's just really helping them with leadership skills, advocacy skills, psychoeducation, life skills. It's always great to expose our girls to different mentors and leaders in the community that are very diverse and that have diverse experiences, and that's something that's part of our model. So, and I know Nicole has worked out with a lot of community partners with the girls, so I'll let you.
Yeah, so we have, I mean, there's a lot of them. So some of our front runners, I think that we kind of talk to often. So Legal Aid Society, we get a lot of referrals from them, and we get a lot of back and, you know, communication with them. We have the HT, or the Human Trafficking Coalition, which we attend monthly, and we're very engaged with them as well. In fact, we've been speakers with them often. They're one that we, you know, utilize a lot. And then there's the interagency, where we're able to meet other community partners and community people in the community who also kind of believe in our mission. We have, let's see who else. We have, like I mentioned before, Peggy Adams, which is a huge supporter of PACE, and, you know, have provided, been able to provide community service for our girls. We have Sir Optimist, which is, they have several chapters, you know, across the world. But we are able to connect with them. We have a really good relationship with them. They often volunteer with us. So just, we try to make connections everywhere we can. If you believe in our mission and want to get involved, that's, you know, we reach out and we welcome with open arms.
And Starbucks, more recently we partnered with, and they've been great. They did a 6-week leadership series with some of our girls, and have employed some of our girls at their local stores, which has been great as well. So
yeah, that's wonderful. So can you tell us more about some of the girls that come through PACE, you know, maybe some of the stories of what you've seen, and some of the successes, how PACE has really helped them?
Yeah. Do you want me to start, April? I have so many.
Go ahead.
So, I mean, we were kind of I was going through yesterday, just kind of looking at, I mean, we have so many success stories, and we're really thankful for that we're able to provide the services we can for them. One in particular that's always, you know, striking to me and near and dear to me is, you know, one of our girls who came to us. She has had a very extensive trauma history. I would say very institutionalized as well, in and out of residential centers, just having a lot of complications and just violence with mom, and not being able to really adapt and get past her trauma. And so that was very challenging for her. She came to us with just, like these array of different diagnoses. That was another thing, I know April mentioned a lot that we don't diagnose our girls and we don't feel like their diagnosis defines them.
Sure.
However, in the REACH program, I like to be very clear, like we are still providing, these therapeutic services that we do have to look at that, in terms of how we're treating our girl. And I always like to say that their diagnosis is just like a map for me. It's just to tell me like, what kind of treatment am I going to approach her with when I do interventions and because at the end, we're still providing clinical work as well.
Sure.
So this girl came to us with an array of, different diagnosis and very challenging at the time. I was in supervision. And I remember saying like, I don't know that I can do this. Just because there was a lot of, she was running away a lot, lots of risk factors for her. So in working with the family and working with PACE, we were able to really secure a good connection with her and mom. They were able to overcome a lot of the things that were holding them back from, really just communicating effectively. We were able to lower a lot of her risk factors. In fact, she has not, and this was a little over a year ago now, but she has not since been back to a residential center. She spoke at our luncheon and was a keynote speaker. She's actually now in college and she is pursuing her career in social work actually. So I talk to the family monthly. I mean, I get updates on her and how she's doing. So that, that story in itself, it was very humbling for me because I think that, again, as a new clinician, it was really difficult for me to navigate with that family. And again, I remember consulting with April and just other colleagues and how I can, really help. And this seemed like something I couldn't do, but it definitely became, she's great. She's doing great. And her mom actually have a really, really good relationship now, which is just blows my mind comparing to where we came from. So she has active job placement, she's doing really well.
And if I could add to that, just because I had some discussion with Nicole in this case, working very closely on it. When Nicole said that the first thing that we focus on is building a relationship and why that's so important. This was a very high risk girl, probably on, if you look at our continuum of girls, I would say on the higher end in terms of her running away and high risk behaviors while on run. This was a girl that while on run would still come home and show up for her sessions with Nicole because Nicole would provide the services in her house. So mom would know she's gone, mom would report her missing, she'd be gone for days on end, but she would not miss that weekly session. And I kept saying to Nicole, how telling is that she shows up for you? So you keep showing up for her, right? I mean, we're not going to move mountains here right now, but you keep showing up and that's going to tell her you're her person, you're safe, you're trusted. And she kept showing up and eventually she started opening up and she became open to suggestions or strategies or interventions Nicole was trying to provide. And Nicole did a lot of work with mom, separate of girl, which was really, really important. And when they spoke at our luncheon together, mom and daughter, and got up on stage, I mean, there was not a dry eye in the house, in the room.
I'm sure. There never is, I think, at those events.
And her trauma was deep and it was stemmed from the family. And there was a lot of anger and resentment towards his mother. And so, but again, you go back to that relationship, she kept showing up just to see Nicole, and Nicole kept showing up and said, I'm going to be here for you every week, despite anything anybody's saying about you, or as mad as mom may be at you, I'm going to keep showing up for you. And that was vital and critical and pivotal in being able to earn this girl's trust and allow us in to her world.
So in terms of the families and the girls that you're working with, would you say that in terms of demographics that it's varied? Do you see that, I don't know, socioeconomic factors contribute? Like, tell me more about these families.
So all of the girls that we serve at PACE qualify for a national school lunch program. So right there tells you, a little bit about their socioeconomic status. Most of our girls come from communities of low socioeconomic status, marginalized communities, communities that don't have a lot of resources. Our girls in Palm Beach County, interestingly enough, at Pace Palm Beach, and it could be also where we're positioned in the community, 40%, we average about 40% of our girls are Black, and 60 are white. However, of that 60%, 40% identify as Hispanic. We
Okay.
have girls that come to us that don't speak any English. And so we make sure they are paired with our Spanish speaking therapists, counselors, and academic advisors. We use resources from the school district. We bring people in, online resources. We make sure to meet their needs, but we have a very high Hispanic population that we serve at Pace Palm Beach.
And of the girls that come to PACE, what percentage would you say have experienced either sexual trauma or some type of domestic violence?
So, well, we categorize it, if you want to say, as victimization in any capacity. So any sort of abuse, victimization, relational dating violence, any of those, we would say probably about 75 to 85% at any given time. When we look at the risk factors that we look at for bringing a girl on, victimization is one of our largest categories, next to family instability and family conflict. But we often find out those when we're collecting that data at intake, at enrollment. When the girls later open up to us even more, I would say those numbers rise. But since we capture it at intake and at enrollment, it's probably a little lower than what it really is. Because once they feel safe and open up, we learn a lot more that they didn't initially share with us. But most of our girls, whether it's from dating violence within their family, within their communities, have experienced some level of victimization.
Yeah. That makes sense. I mean, based on what I've seen with other data in the juvenile justice system, there seems to be a high correlation between girls who are incarcerated who have experienced some type of violence.
Oh, you're absolutely right. And, high rates of sexual abuse and overrepresentation of girls of color continue to be the norm in our juvenile justice system nationwide. So what you said is 100% accurate. That is, when you look at the ACEs, the adverse childhood experiences of girls in comparison to boys who have been through our juvenile justice system, rates are rather similar until you see sexual abuse, and then it's significant increase when it comes to our girls.
Yeah, it's very alarming. So in terms of advocacy work, is PACE involved in any kind of, advocacy or policy, lobbying, things like that, beyond like all of the wonderful things that you're already providing for these families and these girls? Is that something that's included in what you do?
Yes, so PACE is definitely a movement involved at the state and national level with looking at how we can interrupt systems and engage in policy reform that ensure that our girls have equitable opportunity for success. So a lot of the work has been done around, if you look at juvenile justice, as making sure that there are alternatives and diversion opportunities for our girls prior to any level of incarceration. And that's been huge. And I think the work that PACE has done at the state level has been significantly part of that transformation in our state, shifting from that lock them up mindset to let's invest in prevention, early intervention levels. Every year we have what's called PACE Day at the Capitol. And all 21 of our centers in the state of Florida bring girls to our Capitol in Tallahassee, and everyone meets with their local senators and representatives to continue advocating for PACE. It's known as PACE Day at the Capitol. It's on the news. And so we engage our girls in that advocacy work in meeting with our local delegates. And so that's really significant.
I mean, so what would be an example of a policy change that you would be advocating for that would, empower girls in this situation, or maybe prevent girls from ending up in juvenile justice?
Well, one of the things that we just had passed was the PACE bill, which is really ensuring that funding for the PACE program statewide is reoccurring. And because we know the significant impact and the outcomes that it has. So that has been really significant more recently than anything, because, you know, to not have to go ask every single year, you know,
Sure.
to believe in us and invest in us when our outcomes have been sustainable and consistent, it was pretty significant.
Well, I mean, yeah, good luck with that. So, I mean, are you at all concerned, given what's happening with COVID-19 and, you know, Florida, obviously tourism is a big part of where our money comes from. You know, with the budget coming up for this, you know, this coming fiscal year, like, are you concerned that with budget cuts that, you know, PACE may be one of the organizations that receives less funding because of that?
Of course, I think everybody is concerned. We do know that the governor did sign the budget, unless it comes back up for a special session. And so the funding that we were able to get in reoccurring was signed, and that really covers our 21 centers statewide, which was significant in getting the PACE bill signed. But we've also prepared. I don't think our organization knew we were preparing for a pandemic, but we've also prepared and are very fiscally sound and viable at the state level. Our national office is, you know, that's a huge undertaking and oversight that they have for our centers to ensure there is enough reserve. And we've made some very financially sound decisions to ensure that PACE's stability during this time. So that's a little beyond my day to day. We are very grateful for our national office out of Jacksonville that works with us on that and does a lot of the work with our legislators and the advocacy work that they do. But yes, it's a concern. But we also know that we've created great relationships and we've done great work and advocacy to make sure that they understand that PACE is a program that should remain in the Florida Code and be recognized and sustained because of its impact on communities.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. So we have about 8 minutes left. If there are any additional questions, please, again, submit them through the Q&A feature, which is probably located on the bottom of your screen. So I know one thing we did want to talk about too was your new facility. I had mentioned, you know, JWF had funded PACE many years ago, and so I had been at the old building, but I have not yet seen the new facility except for some photos online. So tell us about your new building.
Yes, so in the midst of all of this, right as we shut down, pivoted, transitioned to virtual and remote platforms, we moved. And we moved very quickly. So our team who thought they had one final week to finish packing, I said, team, we're shutting down in 2 days, we're going remote. So they packed everything up. We had movers come and we moved overnight and into our new facility, which is now located in Palm Springs. So we are off Congress, just south of Forest Hill, north of 10th, in the Greenbrier Shopping Plaza, but in a standalone 2-story, newer, beautiful facility. Our logo is now up on the building, which was a monumental moment for us. And we were intentional in the area that we selected and also the building and the timing of this. You know, we're about to next year embark on our 25th anniversary in Palm Beach County. And I'm not convinced that we've done all that we can do in this community. There are a lot more girls to serve and we have the capacity to do so. And so this building really does afford us the opportunity to increase our services. We have been awarded by the Department of Juvenile Justice 10 additional slots. So that has taken our program from a 52-girl program to a 62-girl program. And we are currently at 64. So we're 66 rather, I'm sorry. So we're doing really well there. So we have the space to continue to scale our growth in our community, to grow our programs, gives us an opportunity to be innovative in our service delivery. So we're very happy about it. We can't wait to launch and share this space with the community. And I'm, you know, hopeful that soon even small group tours we can do, but
Sure.
We're very excited, and it's an environment that's much more conducive to the work that we do in providing a safe space for our girls to heal.
Well, we would love to come and see the facility
Absolutely.
as soon as, you know, it's safe for us to do that. I know that our trustees always enjoy being able, you know, to see in person the work that we're supporting and learn more about the organizations. How many staff people do you have?
We are a strong team of 19.
Okay. And that, I guess, consists of a lot of therapists or social workers or.
So we have five teachers certified in their respective subject matters. So that covers all of the main subject areas, English, math, science, social studies, and the fifth is our elective, which is Spirited Girls, which is our curriculum unique to PACE, our life skills psychoeducational curriculum. So the girls earn a half credit there. And then we've got some administrative support. We have 3 counselors and a team lead, a coordinator, and that, so 4 counselors that work with our Girls in Our Day program. As Nicole mentioned, we have a 3-person reach team right now, and just some program and administrative support.
Okay. And do you have a need for volunteers for any reason?
Do we have volunteers?
Yeah.
Yeah, we have volunteers that come in, again, as I mentioned, Fall, Tops, Norton. So we do have volunteers that come in. We also have interns that come in from local colleges. So a lot of social work interns that come in as well. So we consider them volunteers, but yeah, we have interns that come in as well.
Okay. So for our attendees, if they want to learn more about PACE, how can they do that?
Well, our main point of contact for that would be Mackenzie Marsh, our community engagement manager, but you can just call the main line and we'll get you connected. Right now we're virtual, but the calls are all routed to wherever they need to go. So again, it's Mackenzie Marsh. She's our community engagement manager, and she's the one that oversees all of our volunteer opportunities.
Okay. And then for general information, people can visit your site.
Visit our website. You can give us a call.
And
hit any extension, anybody will talk to you.
And can you just give us the web address for anyone who's listening?
Yes, it's www.pacecenter.org. And from there, you can just go to locations and select Palm Beach, or you can search all of our other locations as well.
Excellent. So I do want to thank you both again for being today's guest on our webinar. I think that PACE does such important work. I've certainly been there a few times and met with some of the girls who were enrolled in school there, and it just seems like such a remarkable program, and we really appreciate that it's gender responsive. I think that that's so important to the success of the girls who come through the program, and we are happy to be a funder. So thank you both again for speaking with me today.
Thank you for having us, and thank you, Jennifer, and your team, JWF, for your support. This has been great, and we really, really value our community partners. So thank you.
Yes, of course, and we look forward to being able to meet with you in person and to come there when it's safe to do so.
You'll definitely be on the invite list. You got it. Absolutely.
All right. So on that note, we're going to go ahead and wrap up today's Impact Tuesday. So I thank everyone for watching and listening to today's webinar. Our next webinar is in 2 weeks, and we will be speaking with Compass LGBTQ Community Center, also a new grantee. For more information about JWF, please visit our website at jwfpalmbeach.org. As always, I like to remind everyone that we are supported entirely by individual donations, and right now we're not really charging for any of our programming, so gifts are really important to supporting our work. I would love to encourage people to become monthly donors, because monthly sustaining gifts are also really important to the organization. So you can learn more about that on our website or call our office at 561-275-2200. I hope everyone stays safe and healthy, and we'll see you in a couple of weeks. Thanks so much.
Bye.
Bye.